Hey, what's up to everybody out there? Welcome to another edition of the Round Table Talk. I am your host, C Money, and we are back again here at the beautiful Snyder Park here in the beautiful Fort Lauderdale. Earlier, I had a chance to visit Secret Woods Nature Center, which is a very nice nature center, and it is one of the very few nature centers that I do admire. There are a lot of places that I go to, and a lot of places that I visit that, the purpose of my hotspots in South Florida is basically not only for the visitors but also for the locals as well, because there are a lot of places that I haven't visited that I've seen either through social media or through advertisements that I feel like it'd be a cool place to go to, whether it's in Palm Beach County, Broward County, or in Miami-Dade County, and I grew up in South Florida all my life, and it's places that, I've never been to, and I always try to say, get a chance to actually visit these places, because you never know what may happen. As you know, there is plans to close the shops at Sunset Place there in South Miami to make it a mixed-use development, and I did several videos at that place, and I'm planning on doing a video to actually show the what the place is, and there are several other places that are going to be torn down to make way for mixed-use developments. I know I did an episode a while back where Owen Dixie there in South Miami, and then I did an episode there and at the Mall of the Americas, which is now called Midway Crossings, where they had a go-kart family fun center, and it got changed into apartments. So when I do these places, a lot of these parks are basically parks that's going to be here to stay. Recently there was a park that got closed down in the Brickell area temporarily because they're building a new apartment condominiums, apartment complex near and there, and the construction people need to use the buildings, and it was on the news, and a lot of people like, this is the only park we need and stuff like that. So when I do these places, I want not only for the locals but the tourist people come out to these places. If you know any places that is good for us, for me to explore, anything, whatever it's amusement parks, family fun centers, whatever it's museums, art museums, a lot of these places where I haven't visited, give me some ideas. I'm here at Snyder Park. I'm sitting at one of the elevated pavilions. If you've seen my video a while back when I did an episode in this park is one of the very few parks that I like, because I like the elevated pavilions. And what is the elevated pavilion? It's a pavilion that's off the ground. It is elevated to where it's actually, it's actually nice. It's elevated. So I, like elevated pavilions, and it's nice, it's cozy. You can sit a whole bunch of people here. There isn't a barbecue grill in the area, but there is a lot of things to do here at Snyder. So I'm gonna run down history South Florida. I do this because I have a love of history. I have a love of not only African American history, but history in my own backyard, and also history that reflects us today, because a lot of the history from the past reflects on us today. And I do it whether it's going to a history museum or whether it's exploring a park that has historical significance in it, whether it's going to a house that has historical significance into it, or whether it's going to a building that's operating now and that has some type of historical significance to it, whether it's a shopping mall, a shopping center, a store that got rebranded, or things like that. A lot of these places, it has, it gives us as human beings, it reflects on us in the future, and I visited a lot of places. Like I did an episode at Bill Baggs when I found out that Bill Baggs, Cape Florida, was a section for runaway slaves to go to the Bahamas and get on boat rides and things like that. And then also there was another one, there was another part, the Barnacle, which was one of the first few houses built here in South Florida. And there are a lot of other parks and a lot of other places that I visited, that gave us significance of, a lot of these, history behind it. It may not be our history, but it probably did shape up our history, and things like that. So that's why I do that, and I'm a big fan of history and things like that. Hot spots in South Florida, which I was just talking about, is basically anywhere that's interesting to go to, whether if it's a family fun center, whether if it's a park, whether if it's an amusement park, whether if it's something, it's where to go at now when you visiting South Florida, because South Florida is not like Universal Studios. It's not like Orlando. I'm sorry. Orlando, you have a lot of things to do. You have Universal Studios, you have Walt Disney World, you have Fun Spot, you have Ripley's Believe It or Not, you have Wonder World, you have a lot of these, Icon Park, you have a lot of these places, to go to, whether, for fun. You have 1,000,001 amusement parks, 1,000,001 arcades and game rooms, because I discovered a lot of arcades and game rooms, that is out there. So, you have 1,000,001 things to do. Here in South Florida, it's not so much. The only amusement park we had was Uncle Bernie's, and you see what happened to that. And it ended up getting torn away. And there are plans to build a mega mall here in the northern part of Miami, near Miami Gardens. But them plans are, it'll probably be another few years before the mall gets developed. It's not even in the construction phases yet. It's in the, I guess, the approval stages, and then they got to go into the construction phases before that, and then, things like that. So it's going to be a couple of years before that end up happening. And you see that a lot of the places we love to go to are being taken away. Remember when I said South Miami, when I used to go to South Sunset Place, the arcade used to be called GameWorks. It is now called Game Time, and now eventually they're going to be shutting down because the building is going to be torn down. Now I believe that they're going to be rebuilding a new movie theater there, but who's to say that Game Time is going to be coming back? And then there's a lot of other locations throughout South Florida that are being torn down. Recently in Oakwood Plaza, I did a video of Oakwood Plaza a while back, and I talked about how Oakwood Plaza used to be Six Flags Atlantis, and in 1992 it got damaged by Hurricane Andrew, and it was so damaged, so much damage that they couldn't reopen, and they turned it into a shopping center. And just recently they closed the movie theater that was at that same shopping center, because blocks away at Dania Point, which is a new shopping center, which sits on the old Boomers Family Fun Center, they built a 4D movie theater. And a lot of people was like, they could have kept the regular movie theater as well as the 4D movie theater, because, from where it's at. But at the same time, I'm kind of checking, because I see it's a couple of ducks that's walking the area, and I want them to come up on the elevated pavilion, because this pavilion is elevated, so it's kind of hard to kind of get away from it. Like regular pavilion, you can walk from any direction. Here there's only one way in, and it's up a little ramp and stuff like that. But a lot of these places are being terminated and being pushed away for new developments, and it's in a lot of these. That's why I always say, come out to this place, come out to this fun center, bring your kids. If you by yourself, come to a thing, because you never know what may happen, and eventually, we're gonna get, new high-rise condominiums, and it's places we used to hang out at as kids, and the places we used to bring our kids no longer exist, and it's like, what? And that's where History of South Florida come into place, because remember I did an episode of Oakwood Plaza, which was formerly the Six Flags Atlantis water park, and eventually, that got shut down, and it became a shopping center. And then Boomers, which had the only roller coaster in South Florida, and it was basically at the time the only wooden roller coaster here in the state of Florida, and it had Dania Beach Hurricane, which was the roller coaster. And in about 2016, they shut down the park to make way for a new shopping center. And what we got out of a shopping center, They could have still gave us an amusement center. No, we ended up with a bowling alley with no. I mean, they had arcade, but they didn't have no laser tag, and then you end up with a movie theater, a 4D movie theater, which prompted them to close the other movie theater that's been there ever since the opening of the Oakwood Plaza Shopping Center. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. So a lot of these places, they're getting rebranded. Look at the Omni Mall. I did a piece on the Omni Mall that became a business thing. The hotel still sits there, and the hotel got rebranded for years and years. It's been, different hotels there, different name hotels, but the hotel is still there. The mall is no longer there, and there used to be a college there. There used to be what it was, Brown Mackie College. They got shut down. Then it became the Art Institute, and they ended up getting shut. It was a lot, and things like that. So that's about that. And also with a lot of that food review, South Florida is places that I review that are not chained restaurants, that are not Burger King, McDonald's, KFC, Churches, Checkers, Wendy's, chained restaurants. You got local food restaurants, whether they local chain or or local chain or just mom and pop, one standalone restaurant. And these are where people go to, and I wanted to check them out. I want to check out some of these restaurants that are, local restaurants, check out the food, check out the menu. Every now and then you want to step out of your comfort zone. You don't want to always go to Wingstop for chicken wings. You don't always want to go to Sbarro's for pizza and pasta, and you don't want to always go to Burger King and McDonald's for burgers. You want to check out certain restaurants, and you want to give them the opportunity to get your business and support these local businesses, because a lot of these restaurants are closing down. I've seen there was a post on social media that even though these are chained restaurants, some of them were mom and pop restaurants, that they closed, like several restaurants in Broward County. One of them being Bahama Breeze, and they had other restaurants as well. And then there was a mom and pop soul food restaurant called Betty's Soul Food, which is in the heart of Fort Lauderdale, and they got closed. And there's a lot of restaurants, and I say, take the time to visit your local restaurants and support them. We don't know why they're closing. Some of them may be closing because financial reasons. Some of them may be closing because they violated health codes and they can't, get the money up to, actually fix the problems with the health code violations. Some of them get bought out by big time corporations and to make way for new high-rise condominiums or shopping centers and things like that. So it's up to us. If you have a local soul food restaurant or a local Hispanic cuisine or Cuban restaurant or Jamaican or Haitian restaurant, go out and support these businesses, because you never know what may happen 10, 20 years from now. These businesses may be shut down to make way for multi-million-dollar corporations. You see a lot of these Walmarts and Dollar Trees and Dollar Generals are popping up everywhere, to where you're driving out the local 99-cent stores. You're pushing away the local 5 and dime and the local mom and pop convenience stores, where you can go in and buy a pack of batteries for $1, or you can go in and buy you a can of soda or something like that. Now you got Dollar Trees and Family Dollars and Dollar Generals and Walmarts and Targets. Remember I did an episode back at Central Shopping Plaza, which is right across the street from the old Highlight, which is now called Magic City Casino, and they had a Kmart there, and the Kmart was just there a few years ago, and the Kmart closed, and it got rebranded and opened back up as a Target. Now, I did do an episode of the last remaining Target that's here in South Florida, and I encouraged a lot of people, go support that Target. It may be a small Target, but even if you're just going in there to buy some hand sanitizer, or even if you go in there like myself, I went in there and bought, I bought some hand soap for my sink in my bathroom, and I'm still using it. It's almost gone, and I told myself I gotta go back and get some more. Support these businesses, because after that Kmart closed, there are no more Kmarts in the United States. And it's sad to see that big businesses like Amazon and Walmart and Target, and a lot of these big businesses are driving out our communities and driving out people and these businesses out that we're not supporting these businesses. Remember when Woolworth was in business? Remember when, we had, down here in South Florida, we had Save-A-Lots. Now all of the Save-A-Lots. I was looking at the same post I was telling you that it was saying a bunch of stores have closed. They ended up doing a post along with that with Boston Market. And I commented on it. I say, it was said that in the state of Florida, Boston Market has closed all of their stores in the state of Florida. I don't know if they closed all of their stores across the United States, but I know in the state of Florida there is no more Boston Markets. You can still get the Boston Market frozen foods in your local grocery stores because I see them all the time, but it's never going to be the same as the fresh that you get from the store. The mac and cheese, oh my God, that was one of the best mac and cheese I ever had. Any restaurant mac and cheese, hands down, Boston Market, and their mashed potatoes, because it was something about their mashed potatoes and their macaroni that they did that beat out a lot. You may be thinking you may not agree with me, but it's a lot. And that's why I say, you got to go support these businesses because you never know what, may happen within the near future. Hold on one second, y'all. Got to keep my hydration up. Shoney's, if you've ever known Shoney's, one of the very few restaurants that I know that had a breakfast bar. And me and my family, every Sunday, almost every other Sunday, we used to go to Shoney's and eat breakfast at the breakfast bar. And they had one by the airport. The last time I was at Shoney's was about 2018 when me and my friend of mine visited Orlando and we went to Universal Studios. They had at Shoney's, and I tell you that breakfast bar was no lie. Now there's no more Shoney's. There is a Shoney's in Orlando near the Fun Spot part in Kissimmee, but I don't think it's the same company as the original Shoney's. But when I tell you, hands down, great. Piccadilly's, there's only one location here left in Florida. It's in Hollywood. Piccadilly's has several locations, and I tell you, that is one of my favorite restaurants as well. If you ever get a chance to go to a Piccadilly's in your area, please take a chance to go to it. That's why a lot of these places you got to go and you got to support these places, because we are not promised that these places will be here tomorrow. There are businesses, grocery stores and everything. Winn-Dixie is rebranding a lot of their stores. Half of the stores here in South Florida got rebranded to a Fresco's, which is the same company that own Winn-Dixie, but it's a Spanish version. And then some of the other ones got rebranded into local mom and pop supermarkets like Presidente, which is a local Spanish food, Spanish Hispanic supermarket. And others got rebranded to different, mom and pop supermarkets. And then it was said that all these brought out Winn-Dixie, and then some of the Winn-Dixies that are being rebranded to Aldi's because they are rebranded because areas that don't have an Aldi's, they rebranded some of the Winn-Dixies to Aldi's. And I'm like, yeah, you got to support these things and stuff like that. I mean, remember, I worked at Winn-Dixie, and the Winn-Dixie that I used to work at became a Fresco. And I'm like, yeah, you got to support these places. So at that time, this is why I do Food Review South Florida. This is why I do History in South Florida. This is why I do, Hotspots in South Florida, because I want you to go to these places and I want you to actually, take in these places here in South Florida, because this place could be open today and then tomorrow it's a new apartment complex. This place could be open today and then tomorrow it's a shopping center. There are, there are big businesses that are pushing out. If you ever get a chance, there are several historian people that, that has YouTube channels and that has Instagram channels, and they talk about these things. And even though I don't talk about every location, but there are, historians that travel the state of Florida, and they do talk about these things, and they do talk about a lot of these, how a lot of these parks and a lot of these places. I see a lot of apartment buildings that are abandoned, that are run down and abandoned. You can't tell me that you can't tear down these apartments to build high-rise condominiums. And I saw a few of them on my way here on the train, taking the Tri-Rail. And Tri-Rail, you see a lot of stuff. And I saw a lot of apartments, and I thought to myself, and I say, so instead of tearing down these old run-down apartments and building new high-rises, you rather buy out family fun centers, buy out shopping malls, and buy out these parks and areas to where you can build these buildings when you got rundown buildings that's just been sitting here for about 5-10 years and collecting dust, when you can just rebrand apartment complexes over there and in these buildings and make the best of it. And I'm like, I don't understand how people do this. I don't understand how these are happening like this, because at the same time I look at it as if we are here, and we like these places and we go to these places and we do all of these, and go to these spots, and these are childhood places. These are places we've been going to for years. And then like Sunset Place, I go there all the time for game time. I have the game time card in my pocket. It's one of the very few, along with Dave and Buster's, that I keep the game card in my pocket, and I go there. I still have credits on my thing, and I use it all the time. It's just the fact that we as human beings, we support these places, but then you get these multi-million-dollar corporations that are buying out these places, and you're wondering, like, why are you buying out our childhood history? Why are you buying out where the kids of the generation are going to hang at? Where the kids of the generation is going to have fun and going to do this and that. You took away a lot of these family fun centers. You took away a lot of these parks. You took away a lot of these places that kids hang out in. You took away a lot of these places that I used to go to as a kid. You took away a lot of these places where people enjoy, and to build what? To build stuff to make money out of it. Just like I was telling you earlier in the show about how it was a park in Brooklyn that got temporarily shut down, and one of the commissioners say, yes, they're trying to find a way to reopen the park so half of the park could be used by the locals. So but they told the contractors, in order for you to use this park for your construction, you must give us money to rebuild this park, to make a way for new playgrounds, do all that. And they agree, and I get that. You're gonna buy us some new park equipment and make the park look more fascinating than what it is, because hey, if you're building a condominium or apartment complex near the park, you want to make the park more beautiful for your residents that's going to be living here to come down to this park as well too. So things like that, like here at Snyder Park, I know this park is huge, and I know that there are no plans to make nothing on this park, but there are several parks that I have been to, and they have been closed or shut down, or they have been rebranded to build the parks. Look at a lot of these train stations, especially in Miami, the Metro Rail system, and I did a video on them. A percentage of all the Metro Rails now have apartment complexes on site, which is not a bad thing, because all you're doing is taking the parking lot and turning them into apartment complexes, and you're limiting the parking for the but I understand that. But at the same time, you're allowing big corporations to come in to make money and pushing these small people. Look at what happened to the flea markets. I did an episode with the flea markets. Look at the USA flea market and the Opelika Highland flea market. Those two got shut down, and nothing sits on the property, at all. The flea market at Calmart that was in Miami Gardens, that got rebranded into a shopping center, which was not bad, because it was already a shopping center. It just got rebranded to a modern day shopping center. I get that. But when you're overdoing it to where now you're shutting down these businesses and you're closing them, and you're not doing nothing with the property just sits there. Just like I told you, they're closing the Festival Flea Market to make away with a warehouse district. Now a lot of these businesses that was inside the Festival Flea Market, they have to go to different areas to and they have to find ways, and a lot of them ain't got money to move, and stuff like that. So I look at it as if, go support these businesses, go support these things, because they're not promised to be here tomorrow. Today you could be here, and then tomorrow they could say, get out, you're put out. It's just like an eviction notice without warning. And it's sad to see that our society doesn't care about the community enough to say, hey, let's put a vote. Do y'all want to keep this here? Because I say, Why not rebrand Sunset Place and drive more businesses and make Sunset Place what it used to be? You know, you had the Virgin Mega Store, you had Game Works, which is now Game Time, the movie theater, you had several restaurants. Make it for what it used to be back in the 90s and the early 2000s. Make it lively again. The same thing with 163rd. You saw I did a video at 163rd where that place is a ghost town. The only thing that's thriving at 163rd is the Ross. And that is the only thing that's thriving. Everything else is out. They even took out the city trains. And I'm like, if you will bring back the thriveness, because now you're going to drive everybody to go to Aventura, and there's nobody in North Miami and Opelika and all that. There's no mall that they can go to. So you have to know, what can we do? I know as regular people, it is hard for us to get what we want. But I say this all the time. We have to support these businesses. We have to support, regardless if we're supporting them or not. Make sure that, hey, let's keep this business in this area. You know, Boomers was a good business. I used to like going there. I used to go there after college, when I was in college back in, 2011, 2012, things like that. I used to hang out there and stuff like that. And then it got closed. They used to get a lot of business, and they started changing. And, hey, we want to buy your business and build the shopping center. I'm like, yeah. Can you build a shopping center while Boomers can still be there? Work around the Boomers. You can build a shopping center and still have Boomers. They had a lot of property to do that, but hey, they wanted to get rid of it, and things happen. And that's why I say this is ridiculous. Let me know what you think about this. Do you think that it is wrong for these businesses to come in and take over our child livelihood and take over and buy these properties, or do you think it's the best? What do you think about this? I want you to comment at the bottom of this page. You can also email me, roundtable00@yahoo.com, because I'm honestly, I probably talked about this in previous episodes, but it sickens me to see that we have land that is literally nothing on these lands that are not being used, but you rather buy out businesses and companies and shopping malls and movie theaters and all of these other areas. You rather, buy them out just to build on it and build something that people used to go to for years, where you got these lands that are sitting over there not being used, and you don't want to buy that land. No, I'm going to buy the movie theater so I can build the shopping center here. Or I'm going to buy this amusement center here so I can build a shopping mall and with an apartment complex. Oh, I can buy this property, from these people, close the supermarket and build an apartment complex. Where you got 2 miles away, you got a whole bunch of land that's not being used, and you can buy that land and build on it, probably cheaper. But now you gotta buy out this person that's 2 miles away from that land just to build on something. Come on, dude. What is going on with society today? I know it's all politics. I know it's all government, and I know it's all business or whatever. But at the same time, I look at it as if, hey, we all gotta, try to support our local businesses. Not even local businesses. Try to support these businesses to where, hey, stop these people from coming in and buying out the mom and pop restaurants. Stop these businesses from coming out and buying up these properties that we hung out at as kids for years. Stop these people from coming out and tearing up our livelihood and tearing up our kids' futures and things like that. We gotta know that. Let me know what you feel. Comment at the bottom of this page. Email me, roundtable00@yahoo.com. Snyder Park. Look at this park. It's beautiful. I would be mad and upset if they was to say, hey, we're going to turn this park into a big condominium, complex or warehouse building. It's a lot of these parks. And there are parks too, even though a lot of these parks, if it's not registered in the National Historical Places, it's a park where, hey, we don't know. I've seen parks getting torn down too, just to make way for, a lot of things. And I'm like, yeah, this can't happen. And we need to find a way to support these places. We need to find a way to make sure that these places do not get taken away from us. Let me know what you feel about this. Do you think it's right? Do you think it's wrong? Do you think that it's cool? Do you support businesses buying out these properties and taking them away? Did you have a favorite place you used to go to and it got bought out, or finna get bought out, or got changed within the past? Let me know email me, bombtable00@yahoo.com. Don't forget to comment at the bottom of this page. I thank you for watching this. Don't forget to check out my hotspots in South Florida. Don't forget to check out my food review South Florida. Don't forget to check out my history in South Florida. And also don't forget to check out my traveling with the Roundtable Talk, where I travel to different areas and different states and things like that. And as always, stay safe, stay hydrated. I'm sorry, stay blessed, stay safe, stay hydrated. I'm sorry, I was just all over the place. And I'll see you in the next episode of the Roundtable Talk. I'm going to intake a little bit more of Snyder Park before I head out. And I appreciate y'all watching, and take care. See you in the next episode.